Welcome to another video from Guilao60. Today we're going to be talking about how China suppresses the news, how they throttle back their internet, how they make it so you can't get Google, you can't get Twitter, you can't get anything except for what they want you to get. And how is this good for the country of China? Well, a week or so ago, well actually it's a little bit longer than a week ago, in Sri Lanka, damn near 300 people got killed in a bombing. Geez, I wonder who bombed them. It was done in a church and it killed Christians. So, what does the Western world do? They stick it all over the internet and they stick it all over the news and they tell everybody about the ISIS people that did this, and the ISIS people get all the glory from their buddies and say, oh, you did really good, guys. Killed 290 people and I think injured maybe 500 people, and this went on around. It's still going on in Sri Lanka, maybe, they think. So the news makes it bigger and bigger and bigger until it gets to the point where everybody in the world knows about it. In China, what would they do? Well, I know personally of a macheteing, I don't even know if that's a word, a macheteing in the Kunming bus depot. Okay, train station, sorry. Anyway, so these guys were killing people with machetes, so the cops came and shot them and that was done. Okay, but that doesn't go out on the internet. That doesn't go out on the news. They keep it to themselves. So they don't get the airplay, and you see, that's what these ISIS people, and it's not just ISIS, it's the Christians too, back up a month and a half into New Zealand where some Christians went into a mosque, and killed a bunch of Muslims. Okay, so it goes back and forth, and you see what these two factions, and they're radical factions. Not all Christians are killers, not all Muslims are killers. It's the people that are trying to rile up the population that does shit like this. Okay, well, you think about it. If you do it in, say, the States, it's all over the news. You do it in England, you do it in Sri Lanka, it's all over the news. Australia, New Zealand, it's all over the news. Canada, it's all over the news. You do it in China, nobody hears about it. Why? Because the government says you're not supposed to do that. Don't publicize terrorist activity. Don't stick it on the internet. If you stick it on the internet, you'll be in trouble. See, and it's been like this forever. When I met Wei Fong, my wife, in 2003, in about 2005, we were having a conversation about Tiananmen Square. And she said, no, that never happened. Well, yeah, it did, Wei Fong. It was all over the news. She said, no, it wasn't. So the Chinese people didn't know about it, but the rest of the world did, because there was Western news and they want to blab it all over the place. Okay, so I had to show her on the internet and say, watch this. And she, oh, okay, well, I didn't know that. Well, why didn't you know it? Well, because China throttles their internet. China throttles and decides on what they'll put on their news and what they won't. And all the other governments and the people around the world say, oh, China's bad because they do this to the internet. And all of the expats in China say, oh, I wish I had better internet. And the news, oh, I wish they would tell more about what's going on, and, the good, bad, and the ugly. Well, China's not like that. Now, step into the world today. China has basically no terrorist activity. They've got some problems with the Uyghurs up in Zhejiang province, and they have re-education camps and all this other stuff, and everybody knows about that, except for people in China, of course, because they throttle the internet and they don't put it out in the news. The Western world knows about it. Okay, so because they do this, they may have one or two little terrorist attacks here and there, but nobody hears about it. And these ISIS guys or Al-Qaeda or whatever little crazy faction, Christian faction, Muslim faction, whatever, Islam, whatever. So after it's all said and done, and they hit a couple places in China, and they get no news, no internet play, nothing. Then they say, well, we are not getting enough bang for our buck, boys. Let's go do this in England. Yes, so then they go do it in England or someplace else where they get more play, more media, because that's all these people are looking for, is more media, more play. They want to promote their ideology, and the Chinese government won't have anything to do with that. Well, that's good for China, because all these terrorist attacks now are happening in other countries, not in China, because they get no bang for their buck, because China just won't advertise their shit. Okay, so this is good for China, and not good for ISIS or whoever is blowing up people or shooting people. You see where I'm going with this, right? Okay, so if the rest of the world would take a little bit of brains from the way the Chinese deal with this, the ISIS and the Christians that are doing these terrorist attacks wouldn't do as many of them. Or they'd pick the places where we know these guys will put it on the news and these guys won't, so let's not hit here. So you're sort of insulating your people, your citizens, from this by having these policies dealing with news and internet. And everybody's saying, well, that's just a cop-out. They're doing it because they want to keep power over their people. Well, yeah, that's part of it too. And the other part of it is protecting the people. Not only protecting the people from the bad stuff in the world and the terrorist activities and the ideology of other countries that are trying to infiltrate into China and say, oh, you have to do things this way. You notice all of this stuff is based on Christianity or Islam. It's all based on religion. All these terrorist activities around the world are based on religion. Okay, so when China says, well, we're not big on religion, and they're not. You know, Nanning City has 2 churches, 7 million people. So that's 3.5 million people per church. I don't think they could get all those people in there. They do have house churches and stuff that aren't sanctioned by the government. And the churches that are sanctioned by the government are the ones that are still standing and haven't been torn down. But they have CCTV in them so that when they're preaching their doctrine, they can be watched by the government, and the government says, yes, this is good or this is bad. And what they're doing is they're watching out not only for the government, but for their people and the way that they want their world to be. Not like it is here, but like it is there, and they have a different perspective on life. Okay, so after the dust settles, why does ISIS and why do these radical Christians want to be all over the news and all over the internet? Well, it's a recruiting tool, guys. If I have a view of Christianity and say, oh yeah, those Muslims are bad, or I'm Muslim and say, oh yeah, those Christians are bad, well, I'm going to do this, and then everybody's going to see me. It's a recruiting tool. They're getting their word out, and the Chinese government just won't have that. You see, so we can learn something from these people. Not everything has to have a Western twist on it. Some things can have an Eastern twist on it, and the Eastern twist is sometimes better because they look at this and say, no, we don't like that. We're not going to promote that. We're not going to tell our citizens about this. And you see it in lots of things. Drugs, for instance. I watched a kid walk down the street in China smoking a joint. And in Canada you see it all the time. But in China, that's the first and only time I've ever seen it. He walked down the street smoking a joint. I smelled it before I saw it. And then I knew what he was doing. But all the other people around him had no idea. So he could walk down the street smoking a joint because nobody knew what it was. The innocence of the people of China in Nanning that I know of is different than the non-innocence of the people of Canada, the United States, different places that I've been around the world. And I think the Chinese government is trying to save, or not save is a bad word, is trying to keep that innocence in their people so that they don't have to deal with that stuff. Keep them ignorant? Maybe a little bit. Is it bad for them or good for them? Well, when I go to China, it's like walking back 50 years in time. Family values are better. Life is easier. Things are less expensive. It's a little bit harder. It's sort of like, even in your own apartment, it's sort of like going to the lake and camping for the weekend, where it's not as comfortable as it is here. But I think that's a good thing. It toughens you up. It's whatever. So the Chinese government is insulating their population from all this bad stuff that's going on around the world, and I think it's a good thing. So when you see terrorism all over the internet and all over the news, think about the way they're advertising for these radical assholes that have no brains, and they don't care about life. They have this ideology that's they've been radicalized, and that's just the way it is. But in China, you don't see that. You see it a little bit in the Uyghur population up in the southeast or the northeast area of China, but it's not like it is here in the Western world. They don't have the Christians against the Muslims. They don't have the terrorist attacks. They don't have it all over the news. They don't, like when the Sri Lanka thing hit, or the New Zealand thing hit. It was all over the news and everybody heard about it. In China, that doesn't happen, and that's one of the good things about China that I've seen in the past. That when I watch the news there, it's the local news, and they have good things on the news. Most of it's uplifting stuff. Here, it's all just dreary, black garbage, bad stuff. When you look at the internet and you try it, no porn on the internet in China, and that's another good thing. So the children aren't looking at porn at 10, 12 years old. So when you think, oh, they're bad for throttling their internet, maybe we should throttle our internet, especially when it's dealing with young people, terrorism, just the bad stuff out there. Anyway, that's my opinion on this subject. And if you like this video, as always, like, comment, subscribe, push that share button. Thanks for watching. Bye now.